Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Crossman, and I'm a course developer and tutor at Point Blank Music School in East London. And I'm here this afternoon to talk you through my deconstruction of a track by Ben Pearce called What I Might Do, which has been incredibly popular over the last little while. Kind of wanted to sort of have a look at this track, really, because for me, it's an absolute masterclass in simplicity. You know, the idea is, you know, the backing's been created. It seems to me it's been created quite quickly, and I mean that in a good way. You know, it's got this kind of energy to it that has come about partially by not having it take a long time to put together. And I know all of us producers out there do have a tendency sometimes to labour the point, I suppose you could call it. So yeah, it's one of the reasons I wanted to look at it. Also, the way that everything sort of sits together in support of the vocal, you know, and this word I'm going to use a lot through this, space. So much room for that vocal to really shine through. So let's start off by having a listen to the original. Now, you'll notice in Logic that what I've done is I've actually placed the track into the first track of the arrangement, and I've got the BPM, the tempo set to that of the track. Now, the advantage of doing this is you can see I can look through the arrangement and I can see it. You know, the arrangement kind of speaks to me. I can see where it drops. I can see the various sections of it. And if I then go in and just highlight up a section,
I knew just what it had to be when I heard you say what you said to me every day. Appetite for the night, I knew just what it had to be.
I'm able to loop sections of this up, bring it through.
I knew just what it had to be when I heard you say what you said to me every day.
Let's go into this drop. You know? And that way, it makes it a lot easier for me to kind of just focus in on a section, pick it apart, see the sounds that have been used, and then go for the kind of recreation of it. So it's a technique that I use quite a lot when I do this. So let me just stop this for a minute. Now, with my version here, what I've done is essentially attempt to do it all within the Logic plugins. I know that we all tend to have thousands of plugins flying around at times, and I think there's a kind of a bit of a discipline to bringing it back, stripping it right back, if you like, to almost the basics, and you know, using what you've got there. And I also think that Logic has a lot of very underrated plugins, like, for example, the drums here have been made pretty much in Ultra Beat. Now, some of them I've used samples like this. Other ones, like the kick drum here, have been synthesized. Okay, I've also made use of something called the track stack, which is a new feature within Logic 10, and I've used this in a couple of different ways. Firstly, the drums have all been grouped together for the most part. Okay, so for example, if I go back to my arrangement, you can see that they're all available to me now on this one fader. Now, let's just start off with this deconstruction, and let's going to quickly play through what I've got here. Like I said, most of the drums have come through from Ultra Beat. So we've got the kick and the clap here. So what I'll use here, a sample here, kind of quite 909 based drums. Just bring that forward a little bit, you can kind of hear. Kind of little tom roll thing going on in there. Like I said, it's incredibly simple, but from that point, very, very effective. Now, the only thing that hasn't come from the drums here is the hats are quite live sounding. And I've made use of, I think, you know, I said at the beginning about it all being within Logic. Well, this was the one exception. I used Studio Drummer here just to provide that kind of live hi-hat feel. We go inside here, you can see, actually, you know, it's about the velocities here. Giving it a nice little dynamic. Keeping it kind of, like I say, keeping it live-ish. We bring that back in again here. Now, basses. There's a couple of different basses in here. The main one being this 808 sub bass, a classic kind of sound, very popular sound. And this was originally recreated. I think I used the ES2 for this. Essentially, just using a pitch envelope to give you the kind of the knock at the beginning of the sound. and then essentially pitch envelope on a sine wave. But while I was listening to the original, it sounds to me like he's used a sample, or he's, like me, synthesized it and then put it into a sampler, because if you listen to the top note, it's actually playing shorter, which I think is quite a nice effect. You know, that's done by bringing it into the EXS24. Here we go. Let's go in on the edit here. And you can see it's literally just a bass note. Now, in terms of processing, very little processing on any of this. I have a sidechain bus set up from my bass. So let's drag this in a little bit more. Let's just get into an area where there's a bit more pad action. We'll get to that in a second. Now, the second bass I've used a retro synth for, and it's very low. Just as kind of an effect, really. And like I said, I'll say it again, simplicity. There's the 808 bass. Let's just go to the saw bass here. Yeah, just a C0, kind of almost, I think, using it as more of an effect. Let's bring this forward again. Now, of course, these are all sort of sitting really well. Fair bit of compression going on here. You know, bit of EQ. So what have I got there? Oh, they're just the kind of general EQs that I tend to use here. Sorry, reverbs I tend to use here, which is all cool. Now let's go and have a look at these pads. Let me turn it up here. Now I've used a track stack again, and let me just try and find it. Here we go. So whereas with the drums I've used a track stack to sum them all together, so we're using them as a way of just grouping everything and giving me all the drums on one fader. With the pads, we've got a layering. So it's very, very quiet ES2 pad here that's being sidechain compressed quite heavily from the sidechain. And I'm layering this with this one that I've called bigger pads here. Retro synth, and I'm using the wavetable synthesis within it. Now, retro synth is great for this. You've got, essentially subtractive analog synthesis, syncing where one oscillator's hard synced to the other, wavetabling and FM all in the same synth. And I've been spending a while with it, and I really like it. You know, it's a good synth in itself. So there's some good stuff going on in here. Let's just have a quick look now at this smooth stab sound. Starts the track off. So let's just bring it back to the beginning, I reckon. Okay, now, have I got one of these things soloed? Ooh, there we go, let me bring this in. Yeah, I have, there we go. Let me take this off. Really nice, this stab. Sort of really, really adding to that sort of melodic, sort of stabby groove of it all. And it's quite simple. I mean, again, that's what I like. I've used the word again, simple. You know, a couple of sine waves, one an octave apart. Just a filter on it, just to kind of tame it, really. We're not really doing it any kind of mad filtering on it. It's just kind of keeping control. Just sitting alongside, following the bass line. You know, all the melodies are kind of locked in together as well, which, when you bring that vocal in over the top, you know, works incredibly well. You know, so all in all, you've got a very, very, very sort of simple, stripped back kind of tune, but it's definitely more than the sum of its parts. And it's all sitting there with, I said earlier on, you know, it's all about space. So much room to put the vocal in. There's nothing fighting with the vocal for space, which means that vocal, which is the key, you know, the song is the most important part of this. And, you know, I think it really, really shines through, and it's no wonder he had a bit of a hit on his hands with this. Well, thanks very much for your time. It's been a real pleasure doing this. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll see you in the bar later. Okay, take care now. Bye-bye.
Every 2 weeks in the course, an assignment is set.
So once I've done my assignment, which is essentially a track, I upload it for my tutor to download, and he sends me back a DVR, which is a direct video response.
It's a video
produced by your tutor, that is sent to you personally every couple of weeks while you're studying, giving you immediate feedback on your production.
It's something that enables the students to have a one-to-one connection with their tutor.
You see all of the mouse movements and any parameter changes made by your tutor. It's kind of like sitting in the studio over their shoulder, watching what they're doing whilst they work.
And I think this kind of steel can sound is brilliant. I mean, that's a real kind of hook of the track, this. Maybe let's just try recording something in. The response that the tutor gives is completely tailored to the student's style of music or the level that they're at as well. So it might be nice to spice up this drum track by adding a delay, and you can see I've put one here in the return of the drum rack, and if we just apply that to the clap now, you see it has a really nice effect.
If you want to check out the whole range of online courses, go to pointblankonline.net.
Thank you.